right, everybody, welcome back to Murphy's Law. I am so excited today to have my friend Judge Don Toussaint with me. I can't tell you how exciting it is not only to talk to a sitting judge, but also just a colleague and a friend. And so, Judge Toussaint, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
for Murphy's
having me.
Law.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So I think let's just roll in. Just tell us about you. Tell us how you got to the bench. Tell us about your life, your favorite food, all the things.
Thanks. Well, once again, my name is Don Toussaint. I sit on the Arapahoe County District Court, in the Civil Division. I'm originally from New Jersey, born and raised, child of immigrants. Both my parents came here back in 1969 from Haiti.
From Haiti. Nice.
Grew up in Newark, East Orange, in that area. Really followed my dad's footsteps. He had a big heart for community activism. He ran this organization called CAHACO, which is the Caribbean Haitian Council, and their job was to help out new immigrants from Haiti and the Caribbean, get them acclimated with the culture and getting jobs, etc. I would say sometime around 1982, my dad was doing a program down in Trenton, and at that time we met this judge at the time. His name was Leon Higginbotham.
Okay.
And if you can imagine having a dad and you idolize your dad and your dad is larger than life, which is how I saw my father. When I saw Judge Higginbotham, and he's a towering figure if you ever seen pictures of him, probably 6'7", 6'10", just huge, real deep voice. And I remember hearing him speak to the Haitian community down there in Trenton, and about the justice system, the judicial system, et cetera, and just being enamored by just sitting there and watching him. I must have been probably in the second or third grade, but just watching him really got me thinking, hey, look, this is something that I can see myself, seeing an African-American person, same color as myself. And back in those days, back in the 70s and 80s, and you're probably way too young.
Well, hey, I was born in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Very late 80s, but I was...
well, back then you never saw black judges.
Yeah.
One of my favorite shows was The Dukes of Hazzards, and just watching some of the episodes, and you see the judge there, and it's usually a white individual. So seeing Judge Higginbotham there, really got me thinking that this might be an avenue. When some kids grow up, I want to be a basketball player or a football player or whatever. I knew that wasn't going to happen because I'm pretty thin.
Yeah.
I can't dribble. But I like to read. I like to write. I saw myself doing that. Fast forward, I moved to here, Aurora, Colorado, in 1991, graduated from Overland High School. Graduated in 1993, and then I spent my first 2 years at Alabama State University in Montgomery, HBCU.
Nice.
And there I met another judge. His name was Frank Johnson.
Okay.
And I met him at the Southern Poverty Law Center because he was doing a talk there about the civil rights movement. And if you're not familiar with Judge Johnson, he was the individual who handled all the major civil rights cases in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, wow.
Everything from the Rosa Parks, the Selma to Montgomery March, the Freedom Rides, the desegregation cases.
Imagine that pressure.
Forget about it.
Goodness.
And he was the son of the South. And I remember sitting there and listening to him. And then afterwards, I had a quick conversation, maybe a 15-minute conversation. And the only question I asked him was, you being a white guy, son of the South, and you made all these rulings that really upset a lot of people, a lot of the white people in the Montgomery area as well as the South. How did you handle that? And I remember he just told me that, you just have to have a core set of beliefs. You have to follow the law. And the cases that came before me, I decided it justly, per the law. And he told me that, yes, he did lose a lot of friends.
Wow.
He was part of exclusive clubs. He ended up losing those clubs and friendships or whatever. But the fact that he was able to be a man of integrity and honor, that's something that I think every person, not just judges, should emulate, especially in these times. So fast forward, I came back to Colorado, graduated from the University of Colorado at Denver, met my wife, got married in 1999,
Nice.
Worked as a financial services professional for Great West Retirement Services. It's called Empower now. They have
Oh,
the
okay.
naming rights.
Yes, we all know Empower by Empower Fields.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Otherwise,
right.
before that, I never even heard of it. But yeah.
So I did that. Got my master's at Regis University, and then in 2006, I decided I'm going back to school, night school at the University of Denver, Stern College of Law. Graduated in 2009. Worked in private practice for 2 years.
Let's back up to the night school. How was law school? You know, I've always thought about it, and I always tell my wife, you know, if I actually talk about going to law school, I need you to slap me because I'm
it's
tired
expensive
now. I would say that's a young man's game, but it's tell me like how that was. What was that experience for you?
It was great. You know, I love the University of Denver. I mean, that's my school. My daughter graduated from there as well.
Oh, very
my
nice.
wife had her principal's license from that school. Now, I went to night school, so it's very different than the day students. Day school. The night students were all working adults. So I didn't have the experience like the other 1Ls or 2Ls, getting involved in clubs or whatever. I will work full-time all day long, drop off my daughter at my mother-in-law's house in Parker, drive to the tech center to go to work, leave at 5 o'clock, be sure to be at University of Denver by 5:30, 5:45, leave around 10 o'clock, and do it all over again.
Yeah.
So I didn't really experience the full benefit of being in law school because I was in night school, but the learning, the professors I had, the mentors was invaluable.
Wow. I did the same thing with my master's for public administration. I did it on nights and weekends.
Okay.
And so I can relate to what you're saying. I had some PTSD coming back right there, but awesome. So you went to law school, and then what happened?
Graduated in 2009, worked at a law firm downtown for 2 years doing personal injury law, workers' comp. It was a great experience. I loved the firm, but I wasn't getting the trial experience that I wanted, you know. So I ended up leaving, taking a pay cut to be an assistant city attorney for the city of Aurora, which was great because, you know, Aurora is my second hometown, so I was working in my community. I was there for 5 years. I did about 75 jury trials.
Wow.
And then, and this was interesting, another judge that I really emulate is the one who's really responsible for my career, Carlos Zamora.
Okay.
He's a Supreme Court justice now, but at that time in 2016, 2017, he was the chief judge in the 18th in Arapahoe. And you may know him. He's the judge who presided over probably the most infamous case in Colorado, the theater shooting case.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So he was the presiding judge over that. So he had a lot of notoriety. What makes him so special is because he actually recruited me. He reached out to me.
Wow.
And it's very rare for a chief judge to actually go out and recruit an attorney to be on the bench. He called me up. At that time, my career as a prosecutor was waning. I was thinking about an exit ramp. And he called me up, and you can imagine the ego boost that here's a chief judge who's nationally known. He's calling me to join his team.
Wow.
Obviously, I accepted. I was really honored that he reached out to me. I ended up getting a position as a magistrate, served under him as a magistrate for about 1.5 years. And then Governor Hickenlooper appointed me to the county court bench, served under Justice Zamora for about 1 year. Then he moved to the Supreme Court. And then Governor Polis ended up appointing me to the district court.
Wow.
So I've been in the district court for 4 years now. Made the short list for the Court of Appeals twice.
Wow.
Some heavy hitters beat me to it. So it's all in God's hands.
Your time is coming. I like that. It is all in God's hands. And I think, you know, I bet the people that you're serving today are happy that you're still there.
I hope so. I hope so. They did vote at me. I stood for retention last year.
Oh, good.
The voters said, hey, let's give Toussaint another 6 years. So
that's good. Oh, I love it. So talk to me about, there's a lot I want to talk about and unpack about what it's like to be a judge.
Sure.
But I think let's start out with the more global question of everybody has their opinion on the judicial system today, especially with the volatile nature of politics and its intertwining in what you guys do, not just on the U.S. Supreme Court level, but all the way down to the district and municipal court level.
Yeah, I agree.
And so talk to me about you from your point of view as a man who wears the robe.
Mm-hmm.
What is the state of judicial today? And, this podcast is all about trust and the trust shift in America. Talk about that trust shift in the judicial system and how you guys, how you believe you can gain back the trust, even though the loss of trust has nothing to do with you individually, much like the police departments out there, but just kind of the state of it.
Well, let me explain to the viewers the difference between, federal judge and state judge.
Excellent.
Federal judges, they're Article III judges. They are nominated by, the senators from each state, and then, the president, nominates, and then the Senate actually approves. So that's the federal judiciary, and, you have the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, and you have the appellate courts, and then you have the trial courts, the district courts. So when you're talking about the state of politics, that's primarily with them in the federal lane, because obviously, you're dealing with the ICE issue and everything else. So that's on the federal level. But I'm in the state court, and the way state judges are appointed, usually you apply, you meet with the Judicial Nominating Commission. It could be as many as 16 or 15 people are interviewed with the commission. The commissioners will then select 3 names.
And who are those people?
Well, actually, I believe half are attorneys and the other half are just lay people from the community.
Oh, interesting.
And they have to live in the county that they are presiding over as a judicial.
Interesting. Okay.
So I have business owners, other lawyers. At one time, there was a doctor in the commission. So it's a large swath of the population. So they send the names to the governor. Then the governor will then interview the 3 candidates. And then the governor will actually choose of the 3 which one will sit in that particular seat. And luckily for me, I went through that process twice, and I got appointed twice. Wow. So that was a good thing. So in terms of trust, now that's a big thing. And I would say the judges who really have interaction with the public on a constant basis are the municipal court judges and the county court judges. And, you probably heard the saying, the people's court. That's usually the municipal court and the county courts, because in those divisions, you have the traffic violations, you have the misdemeanors, you have the zoning ordinance violations, things of that nature. So they are constantly seeing judges. I'm in the district court, so I'm dealing with felonies, high-stake civil complaints, everything from personal injury to, wrongful death, construction defect, things of that nature. The public, even though I see the public a lot, not allow the public see me in the district court, because you're talking about something higher. If I'm in the municipal or county court, obviously. I get a lot of interactions with the jurors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I have a jury trial next week, and then I have another jury trial the following week.
Wow.
So, on a rotating basis, the judges will go down to the jury assembly room. We'll talk to upwards of 300 prospective jurors.
Oh, wow.
Introduce ourselves, let them know what the process is, what they're going to be experiencing on that particular day. And then, if you're in a division and you're waiting for your jury to come up for the actual trial, you can have upwards of maybe 50 prospective jurors in that room.
Wow.
And they're watching, and many of them have never been a juror before. They may have gotten the summons and, they got excused for whatever reason, but many of them never sat in a courtroom to preside over a case. So I try to be really collegial with the prospective jurors when they come in. A lot of smiling, being really respectful for their time, because obviously, not many people want to serve as jurors because, they have work and school and taking care of families or whatever. So I try to explain to them the importance of them being there, how we need them to get these cases moving forward, respect their time, make sure the attorneys respect their time. Sometimes the attorneys are tunnel vision and they're just thinking about the case. But I have to remind them, hey, look, they're
off work.
They're off work. Don't waste. If you tell them that this is going to be a 5-day trial, it has to be a 5-day trial.
That's right.
So I deal with that, and usually in the beginning, many of the jurors don't want to be there. But always, always at the end, when the case is over, they rendered their verdict, I always talk to them in the jury deliberation room just to get some feedback. And they all love the experience.
Wow.
And they realize what I do as a judge is nothing what they thought I did.
Wow.
What they saw on TV. You know, I'm not Judge Judy.
Yeah.
Most of us are not Judge Judy. We're not.
That is all of America's experience.
Yeah, exactly.
First experience of judges is Judge Judy. To this day, I think a lot of people look at judges and say, "Oh, that's what a judge is."
And it's a bad example.
What an interesting brand, right?
It works for her because that's entertainment. And,
it is entertainment.
All respect for her.
Is she a real judge? By the way?
She was a real judge.
Okay.
I believe in New York. I believe she was a family court judge.
Okay.
But and this is what not many people know. These TV judges, they're not. They may have been judges in the past, but they're not judges at that time. They're arbiters.
Oh,
They're
wow. Arbitration.
It's arbitration.
That is so interesting, but they call themselves judges. Now, for those who know, Shirt Pass is a thing that does credential verification, making sure you are who you say you are. That seems like that's a problem. They're saying they're judges, but they're not judges.
They're not judges. and I wish that they changed that because like I said, the vast majority of people, they're seeing that. And all due respect for Judy Scheinlin, I think that's her last name.
Sure.
But any actual judge who behaves the way she does on the bench won't be on the bench.
Oh, wow.
Because we also have the Judicial Performance Commission, not the nominating commission, but the Performance Commission. And they're the ones who evaluate the actual judges and make recommendations to the public.
Oh, wow.
And one of the biggest categories is your demeanor. You know, yelling at litigants, cutting them off, rolling your eyes, cursing at them. All that is inappropriate behavior as an actual judge. So what you see on TV is entertainment, it's Hollywood, just disregard it. What you should do is actually go down to your courthouse. It's open to the public. In criminal court, most, if not all, of the cases are WebEx. You can see it on WebEx, so you can just call the courthouse saying, hey, look. I didn't
realize that.
There's going to be a case on such date. I like to have the WebEx link so I can watch it.
Wow.
And that way they can actually see it. And when the public, I think once the public sees what we do in real life, that's when the attitude about, the negative attitude about the judiciary will change. Because they'll realize that a lot of us, the overwhelming majority of us, is just working hard. We're just trying to do the best job we can, ensure rights are protected, and ensure that the law is being followed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in this very much changing environment of the state of Colorado when it comes to laws, and I always say, the worst thing about a legislator is that they legislate.
Yeah.
We tend to write a lot of laws these days. And that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. But how do you keep up with all the laws that come down the pike and the changing of the laws and the interpretation of the laws? And I know that's case law. Talk to me about establishing case law, what you consider, all those things.
Well, I can tell you this much. Folks who end up being judges, we're usually nerds anyway, so we like to read and keep up with things. I'm a news junkie. So whenever something goes on, and I watch what goes on in the legislature to see what types of laws are being passed, to make sure that I know these laws and I'm up to date on them. Because when it comes before me, I'm expected to know what these things are. Also, the Colorado Bar Association, they hold several CLEs a year. And on
all topics.
Types. So if you're new on the bench and you've been assigned domestic relations and you're trying to get up to speed on domestic relations law, the Colorado Bar Association will have a CLE on that particular area. And it's the same thing with civil and criminal and juvenile, the whole 9 yards. So that's how I usually keep up, as well as talk to my colleagues. I'm one of, believe it or not, I'm one of the more senior judges now because we have a high turnover of judges. But when I first started, there were plenty of senior judges that I can turn to and ask specific questions about this or that, or the legislative history about this one particular law that been passed, and they're able to give that to me as well.
So what is causing? Growing up transparently, I used to tell my mom my number one job I wanted was to be a judge. And not because of what I thought you all did, which was, you know, decide cases and or do everything in the court. But it was because when I was a little kid, when I was 4 years old, Judge Judy, she used to make people stand up while she drank water. And I thought that was hilarious.
I remember that, really.
She did that once.
I stopped watching her in the late 90s.
Yeah, so. It was a thing. My grandmother used to watch it. I used to watch it. And Judge Judy used to literally, people all rise and she would drink water. Then everybody sit down.
Yes, you're right. I said, you're right.
Oh, you know
you're
what?
Right.
I want to do that. And so my motivation was ill-advised. But, you know, what is causing the turnover for judges? Because back, you know, growing up, that was like the cat's meow kind of job. Like, you made it, you know, you're doing it, and that's your life. What's the turnover thing?
Well, you know, by law, we cannot be on the bench after certain, I think after you're 71, you got to step off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have age limits.
Is that just in Colorado?
Well, you know, I'm not 100% sure. I know in Colorado that's the law. 71, you have to retire. Other states, I'm not 100% sure because in some states like the South, Florida, Texas, the judges there, they actually run. It's like an elective office. Okay. So they run. So I don't know what the law is there. But at least here in
Colorado.
Probably
term limits, I'm guessing.
I have no idea. Every state is different.
Okay.
But at least I know. And on the federal level, obviously, it's a lifetime position. Usually when the federal judges, once they reach a certain age, they can transition to senior status. So their docket is not heavy as a regular Article III judge. It's something different. It's light. I don't want to say light work, but lighter work than a full-time. Turnover. And I talked to a lot of my colleagues, friends of mine who end up leaving. You know, is this a stressful job? You know, I can tell you right now on my docket, I'll speak for myself. You know, throughout my 9 years on the bench, I mean, I'll average 350 to 425 cases on my docket. And, you know, you can imagine how stressful that is, especially during COVID, the 2020. You remember when everything was shut down? We weren't doing... At one point, we didn't do any trials, and then we were doing virtual trials and limited in-person trials. So in the last 5-6 years, we saw a lot of retirements because of the burnout, because of that. Then you're dealing with, you know, the common stress of, you know, dealing with heavy issues. I dealt with, I was a juvenile judge for 2 years before I transitioned to civil. And I can tell you that was probably the most stressful period of my life. Wow. Because you're dealing with kids. You're dealing with kids, the foster care system. So, you know, and unlike other judges, I don't have a jury to make my decision when I'm in juvenile. So when I'm deciding, when I decided whether or not this particular parental rights should be terminated, you know, that's something that you have to live with.
Oh, that's awful.
Because you're changing the course of that child's life forever. Generations.
Forever.
Generations.
So, okay, let's stay right there for a minute. Why in the world do kids not have a right to a jury? Or not kids, but the parent not have a right to a jury?
Well, there's two parts of the juvenile system. There's the adjudication phase.
Okay.
And let me just give you an example. Let's say, for example, and I'm not saying that you do bad things to your kids.
Yeah, of course.
But let's say something happened to your child. Susan. Yeah. Let's say something happened to Susan's child.
Yeah.
The child went to school and had a big mark on her face. And obviously teachers are mandatory reporters. They call DHS. DHS gets involved. They do the investigation. If they find that there is a significant danger for that child, they remove the child from that home. Now, the parent has due process rights. Sure. You just can't take the child and be like, bye.
Yeah.
So it has to go through the court system. And, you know, I don't want to bore you with the details.
No, I'm a geek too. So this is great.
But basically, you know, there's a part of the system that's called adjudication phase. And that's where the court has to decide whether or not the court system should get involved with that family. The parent has a right to a jury trial for that. Per statute, you know, a jury will come in, they'll have the trial, it could be upwards of 3 to 5 days, and the juror's decision is to decide whether or not, you know, the court system should get involved, whether DHS should get involved. Now,
Wow.
that's once the court system gets involved and the child is under the jurisdiction of the court and under the custody of the Department of Human Services, the parent will then get what we call a treatment plan. And it's about 10 to 15 things that the parent has to do. If the parent's suffering from substance abuse, you got to take your UAs, go to counseling, get a job, maintain a job, get a home, et cetera, et cetera. It's very daunting. It's very challenging. Unfortunately, many parents fail in that meeting those requirements. And when
Is
that
that
happens,
a systematic issue or is that parental issue? I guess my question of that is, if many parents fail, does that mean we need to change something to help them succeed?
well, in my personal opinion, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I like to say I like to hold parents accountable, and many of the parents will admit, yeah, I didn't drop my UA, or I didn't go to my my mental health therapy or whatever. But it's also systematic as well because, and as you probably know, you working in the city as a deputy mayor at one time, there's a big need for services
Yeah.
for people in general. So, and people who are working in this industry or this area, they're not getting paid a lot. So the turnover is
Dramatic.
big,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with caseworkers and therapists, et cetera, et cetera. So, unfortunately, things are missed. Parents fall through the cracks, unfortunately. And when that happens, that's when a decision has to be made whether or not that parent's parental rights is terminated. Wow. Because the child, obviously, the child needs stability. I mean, that's just common knowledge. And it would not be proper for the child to remain in foster care indefinitely. There needs to be some type of closure. So once that happens, once the decision is made that the parent's parental rights needs to be terminated, that's where at least my job as a judge in juvenile, that's where it got really hard because you're listening to the stories. And I can tell you right now, I want to say probably 70% of the parents that I dealt with, maybe 75% of the parents I dealt with, they were not bad parents per se. They just had bad vices. They lost their job. They fell down and they hurt themselves and they couldn't afford insurance, so they self-medicate on substances.
Are most of those cases deriving in substance abuse, you think?
I would say yes. I would say yes. And that's the same with the criminal justice system as well.
Wow.
If you look at
Wow.
the background of these individuals, alcohol and drugs are sometimes one of the main factors as to why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And many of the parents that I dealt with in the juvenile system, many of them, they themselves were in the foster care system when they were a child.
Oh, wow.
So it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And, knowing that, coming from East Orange, Newark, New Jersey, a lot of my friends were in the child welfare system. In fact, in my block, in my neighborhood, my immediate neighborhood, there were at least 3 kids who were foster kids in my neighborhood. And I'll go to class, I go to school at Our Lady of All Souls, and one day, so-and-so is there. The very next day, he's gone.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, what happened to him? And
So how do you deal with that mentally, physically? I'm assuming you work out and all those kind of things to try and stay. But, to affect a person's life, not just forget kids, but expanding to like adults and all that you do now even and the felony work that you do. I know some of the decisions I made as a peace officer has had lasting impact on me.
big time.
How do you deal with that? What is that? What are your mechanisms to deal with that?
It was tough in the beginning, really, really tough. And it affected my relationship with my wife and my kids. They're adults now. I was working easily 70, 75 hours a week, easily.
Wow.
Not attending to their needs. My son had a game. I wasn't able to go to the game because I'm working in the office. My wife is deeply involved in the church, and I wouldn't go to church services with her and the kids because I'm in the office. My daughter, who is getting up there in age, she's in high school, and girls in high school, they're going through a lot of stuff in terms of pressures or whatever. I'm not able to be there for her during that time. not taking care of myself. I would say the worst was probably 2.5 years ago. In terms of the stress, I'm a naturally thin person. My natural weight is 155, 160.
That's a blessing. I know that is not my natural weight.
But but I can tell you, I got as small as 129.
No way.
129.
Wow.
And I remember going to my doctor.
Oh my goodness.
And
he said, "Eat."
No. Well, here's the thing. My doctor's been with me for years.
Okay.
And he pulled my chart. He's like, Don, I'm looking at your chart here in, 2001. Up until 22, your weight was the same, your blood pressure was the same, your heart rate was the same, and now everything's changed. Wow. You're stressed out, you're losing weight, your eyes sunken in. I didn't realize how sick I was until my wife brought that to my attention. Wow. And saying, hey, look, you're losing weight. And once that happened, and the nice thing about Arapahoe County, we have a great chief judge, Judge Amico. Mm-hmm. She's really attentive with judges and making sure they're healthy. And
that's excellent.
She talked to me and counseled me and, advised that, hey, look, maybe it's time for you to move on. I know you love this work. You want to deal with the public and the families or whatever. Well, maybe now it's time for you to transition, do something else so that you can stabilize. And I said, sure, let's do something that's not emotionally charged, which is civil. You're dealing with finances, insurance, etc. And literally, my wife and I and the kids, we were on the beach in the Cayman Islands. It was one of the first vacations I've taken in years. And I get the text message from Chief Amico, said, okay, when you come back, you'll start in the civil division.
I love it.
And since then,
I love it.
I ride my bike, I exercise, I eating properly, and back to my natural weight, and I'm pretty happy now.
Oh, that's a blessing. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, it's what you just described there. Many public sector executives feel that weight, and it's the weight that I felt. I had the opposite problems. I was gaining too much weight. But it was because I was forced to eat really bad because I had to eat what was available because I was running from meeting to meeting. Any given day you're dealing with civil unrest, you're dealing with murders, you're dealing with, unions, you're dealing with,
fires,
you name it, fires all over the place.
And you controlled the jails as well.
I did.
Yes.
I did. And matter of fact, I was the one who did during COVID the jail cap. I was the first one in the country to do a jail cap, and I want to get into that a little bit with you. And then I was the first one to also rescind the jail cap because of the civil unrest and people tearing up the city. They thought that was a get out of jail free card. Well, I guess it was, but I rescinded that quick.
And I remember watching you on TV.
Yeah,
you were pretty mad. I think you said a curse word on TV.
Did I? I hope not. Oh Lord Jesus. For those that saw that, if I did curse, I apologize. But
that's the weight of being a public servant.
That's
you have
right.
to make these tough calls.
That's right.
And you being the head of the entire fire, sheriffs, police, jails, you have to make tough decisions.
And I think, Don, you really cued into something important there, is that it's lonely at the top because you are a decision maker. Yep. And when you make decisions, you not only have to stick with them, but you also have to decide when that decision was the wrong one and then make a course correction quickly, which is one of the things I did, right? Yeah. And I think the part of public service that we're not seeing today is that humility and that ability to course correct when needed.
Yep.
And I would encourage those who are listening, who are executives, and those who aren't listening, send it to them, especially in the public sector, because it is okay to course correct.
It is.
It is okay to admit, we tried this. It's not working. Let's move on to something different.
It is.
Because that is, I would say, the power of democracy as well. And I can just imagine as a judge, those decisions that you have weigh heavy, but also have life-ending consequences sometimes for some folks.
Definitely.
I want to get into something that's probably a little bit spicy, but that's something that people talk about every day when it comes to the judicial system, and that is the black man that's represented in our jails. for decades and decades and decades, people have talked about how, there's more black men in jails than any others. Is that still represented today? I could have spoke to what I saw 4 or 5 years ago, but what does it look like today?
Well, I can tell you, the jail system, the prison incarceration system in the United States is more than any other country. We have about 2.1 million people.
Which something's wrong about that.
Exactly. So more than, other countries that are a lot bigger than ours, like China and Russia. We have well over 2 million individuals in our prison system. And you can add a few more in the justice system entirely, whether it's probation, parole, things of that nature. So it's huge. In terms of African American, I would say, we're disproportionately numbered in these still, in my opinion, especially if you go to some other states like in Mississippi and Louisiana, Alabama, Louisiana in particular. I know it's pretty difficult for the African American community in Louisiana because there's a big number of African American people incarcerated. Here, Colorado, even though there's quite a few of us, unfortunately, in the jail system or the prison system here, since we account for maybe 3%, 4% of the population in the state, maybe 13% in the city. Even though we're disproportionately numbered in there, we're not the majority in there. I would say the other races are. But it's still a problem, And the effects of an individual who is incarcerated, they probably the normal person will think it just affects that person or that person's family.
Everybody
from,
right.
People in the community. It's a loss of tax revenue. Yeah. Because that person's incarcerated. He's not earning. He's not putting in. So it has everybody's
ripple
affected.
Effects.
It's a ripple effect. So, if we can focus more on rehabilitative efforts, diversion efforts.
I feel like really rehabilitation these days is a loaded word. It's a buzzword.
It could be.
And the reason I say that it's a buzzword is because people talk about it, but they don't participate in it. And I say they, meaning the community, right? Like I'm happy to call out my mom who actually does rehabilitation work in the justice system.
You're calling her out in a good way,
In
right?
a good way. In a good way. She does restorative justice.
Good. Okay.
And she in her retirement, she's retired now. And I'll never forget the day she said, "Hey, just to let you know, I signed up to run restorative justice programming." I said, "You did what?"
Yeah.
And she told me what she does every day, and really helping people to rehabilitate in that way. I honor her in that because there are so many people that talk about, the black community and this community and that community and all the people that are affected, but not as a participant. Helping with the rejuvenation of our society and the rehabilitation. What is it that people can do to participate, to allow for our people that are incarcerated to make other decisions when they get out? Because it is a cycle. And that cycle has to be broken if we're going to be successful as a country.
I would say the number one thing for, our neighbors to realize that they have a stake in the game.
That's good.
I'm 51 years old, so I'm coming up from the late 70s and 80s, living in East Orange in my community. Everybody knew each other. Cops back then, they actually walked the beat. They didn't drive in cruisers with their windows up and shades or whatever. The police officer in my neighborhood, Officer Congleton, we used to call him Mr. Bob, he walked the beat. So he knew all the kids in the neighborhood. And if things went down, and he'll go to the person's house, knock on the door, talk to the parents. Hey, look, I'm not going to take your kid downtown, but you need to know your child did X, Y, and Z. I remember I got in trouble 1,000 times down there. And instead of getting that summons or getting handcuffed and taken downtown, they'll put me in the car and they'll drive me home, knock on the door, tell my parents what I did, and then my dad will deal with me afterwards.
That's right.
Now I think in our society,
that's lost.
That's lost.
That's with, thank God for all the technology and all the things like body cams and all necessary elements to our society today. What's lost in that is the ability to have discretion even in my day as a police officer, there were so many kids that I could have put in the system.
Yeah.
But instead, I put their behinds in the back of my car and took their behinds to talk to their mom and their dad, or worse than that, their grandmother, grandfather. And they would deal with them as a family. And to me, that's community. We've lost that.
We lost it, yeah. And I would say, growing up in Jersey, they brought it back in the 70s and 80s. If you remember, in 1967, we had the Newark riots right after Detroit. So at least the city of East Orange and Newark, under Mayor Gibson and then Mayor Hart in East Orange, they've made a concerted effort to change the complexion of law enforcement. So they went out in the community and said, hey, look, we have a police force that's primarily Irish folks. We have, no, actually, I think at that time it was Italians. The Irish was the firefighters. So they'll come into our neighborhoods. And at that time, still now, East Orange is probably 90% African American.
Wow.
But the people who were serving us, they came from Bloomfield and Livingston and, other places, Morristown. So they came in, they made the pitch saying, hey, look, we need you guys to get involved in city. And I remember they tried to recruit my father to be a police officer. He turned it down. But, so growing up, we saw police officers who looked like us.
That's awesome.
And then we had neighbors who were not afraid. If we're walking down the street and we're causing a ruckus or whatever, they're going to call you out. If you're sagging your pants, they're going to pull it up for you, literally.
And that's community.
You can't do that now.
No.
You'll get shot.
But what's sad about that is that's what I grew up into. And to this day, my parents live in the same house for 40-some years. And to this day, their neighbors were some of the people that I call uncle and aunt. Their neighbors are people. Matter of fact, one of their neighbors is responsible for me becoming a police officer. His name is Terry. He was a retired Denver cop, showed me the ropes, taught me how to shoot, taught me how to hunt. Like, huge deal. And he took an active role in my life. Why we can't do that today is challenging to me, because that's how we will keep kids out of prison. That's that accepting the responsibility as a neighbor to make sure your kids are safe. Now, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all. I mean, today, my neighbors are so close to us. I trust them with my kids. One of my neighbors has a code to my house.
I got it. That's
but
what needs to happen.
That is cultivated by relationship and me reaching out and making sure that we have a good relationship. We've got to do something in society to make that more of a norm.
Well, there are people who tried, at least in Aurora, and I live in Aurora now, and you know this. Aurora's been having some tough time in the last few years. Elijah McClain and a few other unfortunate things that happened. We did have a police chief, Chief Wilson, and I knew her casually, and she'll come to every event in the city, whether it's at the Dayton Street Opportunity Center or the Kiwanis Club or whatever. She was out there in her blues. I remember at the Aurora Reservoir, I'm sitting there just relaxing, and she's walking the actual beach, shaking hands and letting people know that she's available. We need more individuals like that. As a judge myself, I try to make it a point to be out in the community, whether it's talking to schools, at schools, or community events, being on podcasts, so that people can know who I am.
Absolutely.
And that I'm not that person on TV with the robe and the glasses.
Judge Judy.
I'm just your regular skinny Haitian kid from East Orange.
By the way,
But when they see me, and they realize, you don't act like a judge. And some people will take offense to that, but I take pride in it. So I'm not your typical judge. I'm your neighbor. I'm no different than your son or your father or whoever. And that's the attitude that I want the people in my community in Arapahoe County to see me as, that I'm just their neighbor, that they have entrusted in me to do some of the tough decisions that I do on a daily basis.
I love it. I tell you what, that's a really good way to wrap this up. I can't tell you, Judge, how excited and happy I am that you joined me today. And I look forward to helping you however I can in your journey as a judge, but also just as a community member. And thank you.
No problem. And for your viewers, if you ever want to reach out to me, I'm in the Arapahoe County Justice Center, Division 14. Feel free to call me or email me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Awesome.
Perfect.